International Trade and Industry, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Wong Raisam, the Chief Executive Officer of Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation, Tan Sri, Datin, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the National Export Strategy Lab Open Day. Can we have a round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence today and for taking your time off to be with us today on this momentous day. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad to deliver his speech. Ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Wong, CEO of Madrid and Senior Management of Madrid, Mr. Khoo of Mandu representing Datuk Sri Dejala and Datuk. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'm 40 minutes away from here. As you know, our office is in Kuala Lumpur. There are 3 government departments which have decided not to move. One is MITI, another is MINDEF, Defence Ministry, another is JKR, Public Works. The rest are all here. So for me, sometimes I got to commute 2 times or 3 times a day between the city and Putrajaya. So my apologies for being late. Secondly, I would like to thank my people in Madrid and Pemandu who have been instrumental in ensuring the success of this very important lab. As you know, the origins of this lab, the beginning was a meeting with the Economic Council, during which it was decided that there should be a lab so that we can deep dive and we can discuss in greater detail some of the issues and challenges, and in particular the strategies that need to be put in place in order to make sure that our exports continue to grow. I've been informed that over the last 5 weeks there have been about 400 participants, and today there's about 150 of you. So let me thank you for staying the course. I know it's a big sacrifice, it's not easy to have a lab. And for some of you, even 2 days is a big challenge. And of course, having you here and in Penang and the places for 5 weeks is an even bigger challenge. So let me thank you for your commitment. We are looking for new ideas and new strategies. And for this, we need to work closely with our friends in the private sector. I've been informed that 7% of LAC members are comprised of private sector people. The 30% equally important, of course, people in government, and they have been you have been working together in the last 5 weeks. We had our first meeting of the National Export Council. I think it was the 6th of March. Yeah. Today is the 26th. Today is the 26th of March. Yeah. So it's been 3 weeks since we had our lab. Our first meeting of the National Export Council. The PM will be convening this meeting once every 3 months, so there'll be 4 meetings a year. The fact that the PM has decided to chair this council personally goes to show how important he is paying, how the attention that he's paying to this very important subject. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know very well we're facing lots of challenges, and I can share with you that January and February numbers don't look too good. Yeah? We're not too sure what's in store for March and April, and the way forward appears to be quite uncertain. Last year was okay, 5.9% it was, I think. Total trade went up by 5.9%, exports went up by 6.1%. In the context of quite a challenging environment, I think we did quite well. I would like to divide exports into 2 broad categories. One would be those where we have little leverage, not much control. And secondly, those where policy levers and policy instruments may have a big impact on total export volume. We do not have much control over oil prices, commodity prices, palm oil and rubber, for example. Those are outside our control. We have not much control. We don't have any control over the state of the world economy. As you know, there's going to be, according to revised forecast, there's going to be slight deceleration in growth in 2015 compared to 2014. China grew by 7.4% last year. This year they have scaled down to 7%. In China, because it's a big market, a very important market for almost every country in the world. Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, countries in Africa, Brazil, America, Japan, Australia, all these countries are dependent on China. So we don't have much control over the state of the world economy. We do not have much control over commodity prices. So in some ways, the policy instruments that we can implement are quite limited in terms of impact. But that does not mean that we should not do anything. Outside of these other areas where we have little control, we need to work harder. One would be increasing our market share in some segments. As you know, our share of world trade has been going down. There was a time when we were number 18 in the world, and now we're number 25. As you know, number 25 in terms of trading nation. When the likes of Saudi Arabia, Qatar came in, our position went down, partly because of the oil and gas exporting countries. So you are very familiar with the challenges. I mean, those are, broad numbers. What's important is, we need to go down into the details. One area that we should be working on is, this regular engagement, regular communication between those of us in government and those of you involved in the export business, those of you running companies. We would like to build a database. I hope you're not going to be stingy with your data. We would like to talk to the major companies, small, medium enterprises as well, probably a list of 100 companies altogether nationally. We start with 2013 and 2014 as a base. How much was the exports, and what was the which countries you exported those products to, and then we hope to be able to share with you the challenges we're facing the current year and perhaps 1 or 2 years beyond 2015. In doing so, we'll be able to understand better the challenges we're facing. We'll be in better position to come up with more effective strategies in pushing exports to a higher level. 2015, our forecast is for a modest growth in exports of about 2%, from 5.9% or 6.1%. That was the increase in exports 2014. This year we're targeting for 2%. From our point of view, it's good to be to earn a conservative side. Anything that's beyond 2%, of course, it is a bonus for us. So I'm just sharing with you the challenging months and times ahead. The need for us to work together much more closely, and exports have got big impact on incomes, on employment, on the currency, on trade balance. One reason why our currency has been strong in recent years, or in past years as well, has been the very strong trade account that we've been having. We've been running surpluses since November 97. It's been a long time. This is March 2015. So for the past 18 years, we've been enjoying surpluses in the trade account every month, year in, year out, for the last 18 years. And we think we're going to continue that way. The issue now is, how big is the surplus? And in previous years, the big surplus in the merchandise trade account has been has had a very positive influence on the other accounts. As you know, our shipping account, for example, has been in the red. Our tourism account is okay, I think small positive. Although we've been receiving, last year I think we received 25 million tourists, but more and more Malaysians are traveling to Bali, to Phuket, to many other exotic parts of the world. So as we bring in more tourists, Malaysians are traveling more and more. We've been targeting ourselves to be major hub for education. I think now we have about almost 100,000 foreigners studying in Malaysia, but we have an equal number studying overseas. And fees charged of America and UK, Australia are much higher than the small amount of fees that our universities, including private colleges, charge. Therefore, there's a big imbalance in our education account. If you look at healthcare, for example, we have been enjoying good increases in the last couple of years, but we know that many Malaysians have a preference to seek medical treatment in other parts of the world. So these are the challenges, yeah. And in the past, the good thing about Malaysia is that the huge surplus in the trade account has been able to compensate for the fairly sizable deficits in some accounts. Shipping is one, yeah. Education is another. I've been talking quite a bit about the what I call the auto trade account. The auto trade account is exports of motor vehicles from Malaysia, exports of car components from Malaysia, exports of motorcycles from Malaysia, versus or compared to imports of motor vehicles from Japan, Mercedes-Benz from Germany, imports of car components, and that amount is huge, 13 billion ringgit, what I call the auto trade account. Yeah, the amount of motor vehicles and components we export to other parts of the world compared to the amount of imports. There's a big gap, yeah? 13 billion, 14 billion. So these are the challenges. Yeah? So in the past, the big gap in the auto account, the big gap in the shipping account, and many other accounts have been compensated by the very sizable surpluses in the trade account. And going forward, we're not too sure which way these numbers are moving, north or south, we're not too sure. Anyway, we are confident that there'll continue to be a trade surplus. The issue now is the amount. Last year there was a surplus of more than 80 billion ringgit, which is a big amount. And previous year it's been hovering on 70 to 90 billion ringgit every year. That was the amount of surplus we've been recording. So these are the challenges. As I said, these are broad macro numbers. What's important is we need to be a more micro in our approach in terms of coming up with strategy. So I would like my people to work closely with members of the private sector. I would like to build a database. I would like you to share with us your numbers for 2013, 2014, and we would like to be in constant communication, say twice a year, yeah, to understand what the position is for the current year, and going forward next year, for example, what's your expected forecast. And we'll do that for multinational companies, Malaysian companies, small, medium enterprises. In the morning, I was at a function. We gathered more than 1,000 SME entrepreneurs, and SME Bank launched a program called SME Go. They've got 500 million ringgit to promote exports by small, medium enterprises. SMEs have a very important role to play. We would like to increase exports by SMEs. Now it's about 16-17%, or the latest number is 15 something, probably around 16%. 2020, we want 20%, 20% of our exports coming from the SME sector, from about 16%, just under 16 to 20%. That's a big jump in 4 or 5 years. So these are the challenges, and you'll come up with lots of strategies. We're going to focus on some sectors, medical devices. We're going to focus on some countries. ASEAN is important, China is important. Electrical electronics as a group is important. We decided to set up a strategic council on E&E for me and members of the private sector to interact on a regular basis to come up with strategies in terms of investments and also in terms of exports and trade. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your support. You've been in this for 5 weeks. You have sacrificed a lot of your time, but this is a very important agenda. As I said, not many people appreciate the importance of trade. Yeah, people look export, individually or as a standalone subject, but exports have implications on pork lung, the tonnage, for example, the movement of lorries. The logistics people, the amount of business is tied to exports. If exports come down, those who are in logistics will experience a decline in exports. If you have a decline in the trade surplus, that will have an impact on the currency. And currency impact is pervasive. Every one of us is affected in terms of import prices, input prices. Those of you having children studying overseas, it's not just those having children studying overseas. Every Malaysian is affected by currency depreciation. So, in my view, in our view, the impact of exports on the economy is substantial. And for that reason, we need to give a lot of focus. And that's one reason why I've decided to have this lab. Thank you for your inputs. And that's one reason why I've decided to set up the National Export Council. Thank you for your contribution. And of course, this is not the end of our interaction. We'll continue this interaction. It is so important and to get the pulse, to understand the feelings on the ground, so that we can come up with the appropriate strategies to ensure we continue to enjoy a good export performance. On that note, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Dato' Sri. Now, Mr. Abu Bakar Koyakuti, the Director of Oil and Gas and Chemical Section at Matrade, will kick off the presentation on the outcomes of the lab. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat petang dan salam satu Malaysia. On merchandise export target for 2020, we are talking about 921 billion. And these are all the pillars that we have discussed and highlighted. Of course, basically aligning to RMK 11 growth, as well as focusing on fast-growing and emerging subsectors. Okay, before we can talk about all this, I think it's very critical for us to look at the car engine. And this is where Matrade come into the picture. I think the role of Matrade, somehow, I think we need to, to achieve this, I think that it need to be transformed and to align in enhancing its deliverables. This involves changing the role of Matrade to be an export accelerator, focal to export and companies' internationalization by implementing innovative export promotion activities through adequate funding. Thus, Matrade need to increase its expertise, person job fit exercise, and enhance its officer. Flexibility and agility on moving officers in responding to market dynamics will be looked into. Rewarding performers and adopting exit policy for non-performer will also be looked into. Okay, to start off, one of the main contributor to the economy is E&E. E&E export target for 2020 is 258 billion. This involves projects like linking directly with high-end buyers or sourcing companies